The scene opens with a packed arena, the deafening roar of fans reverberating through the air. Spotlights sweep across the ring as the camera zooms in on a figure standing confidently in the center, Bayley. Her championship belt gleams under the lights, and her face is a mixture of triumph and resolve. The crowd chants her name, a chorus of admiration and loyalty. In the world of professional wrestling, few names shine as brightly or as complexly as Bayley. She is a figure of resilience, evolution, and undeniable talent. Her journey from a wide-eyed fan to one of the most iconic wrestlers of her generation is a tale of grit, transformation, and unrelenting passion. Clips of Bayley's career flash across the screen, her smiling in her early days with the hugger persona, performing high-flying moves, and later, her dramatic transformation into the edgy, dominant heel that shocked the wrestling world. Bayley is more than just a wrestler. She is a chameleon, a pioneer, and a symbol of change. But behind the glittering championships and electrifying performances lies a story of sacrifice, struggle, and self-discovery. The scene transitions to a quiet locker room. Bayley sits alone, wrapping her wrists, her face reflective. Her voice breaks the silence. It's not just about winning. It's about proving to yourself and to the world that you belong, that you're more than what they expect you to be. The narration resumes as the screen fades to Bayley's childhood home, a modest house adorned with posters of her wrestling idols. From the time she was a young girl in San Jose, California, Bayley dreamed of stepping into the squared circle. Wrestling wasn't just a passion, it was her lifeline, her escape, and her future. Clips of a teenage Bayley attending wrestling events, holding signs for her favorite superstars, and practicing moves in her backyard play alongside nostalgic music. But the road to superstardom was anything but easy. Bayley's story is one of relentless determination, overcoming stereotypes, and carving out a space for herself in a world that wasn't always ready for her. The screen transitions to the NXT Performance Center, where Bayley trains tirelessly, her sweat-drenched face a picture of focus. Coaches shout encouragement as she perfects her signature moves. She was the underdog who refused to quit, the fan who became the hero. Bayley's rise wasn't just a personal victory. It was a beacon of hope for anyone who dared to dream. The music builds as highlights of her iconic matches play. Bayley defeating Sasha Banks at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, her first Raw Women's Championship win, and her record-setting tag team victories. Through every high and every low, Bayley has remained a constant force in the wrestling world. Her evolution from the lovable hugger to the ruthless, calculated champion proved that reinvention isn't just possible, it's necessary. The screen fades to Bayley addressing a packed crowd, her voice filled with emotion. I've been the hero, I've been the villain, and I've been everything in between. But no matter what, I've always been Bayley. The introduction ends with a powerful montage. Bayley standing victorious in the ring, embracing fans, and reflecting backstage after a match. The camera zooms out as her voice echoes. This is my story. This is my fight. And it's only just begun. The scene opens with a quiet suburban neighborhood in San Jose, California. Children are playing in the street, the faint sound of laughter filling the air. The camera focuses on a modest home, where a young Bayley, then known as Pamela Rose Martinez, sits on the porch with a notebook in her lap, sketching a wrestling ring. Before the roaring crowds and bright lights, Pamela Rose Martinez was just a girl with a dream that would take her far from this quiet street in San Jose. Her journey began not with fame or glory, but with passion, grit, and an unshakable belief in the power of possibility. The camera shifts to a family dinner scene. A younger Pamela sits at the table with her parents and siblings, her excitement evident as she talks about her favorite wrestling superstars. Growing up in a supportive yet humble household, Pamela's fascination with wrestling began early. Her parents, though unfamiliar with the world of sports entertainment, encouraged her passion, watching matches with her and fostering her dreams. Clips of Pamela's childhood play, watching wrestling on a small TV, practicing moves on a makeshift ring in her backyard, and cutting out pictures of wrestlers to paste into a scrapbook. She wasn't just a fan, she was obsessed. Pamela didn't just watch wrestling. She studied it, analyzed every move, and dreamed of the day she'd step into the ring herself. The screen transitions to her middle school years, where Pamela faced her first set of challenges, fitting in, balancing her wrestling dreams with academics, and navigating the expectations placed on her as a young girl. Wrestling wasn't a typical aspiration for a young girl, and Pamela often found herself defending her dreams against skeptics. But she never wavered. Pamela's voice narrates over a scene of her practicing moves with friends in a local park. I didn't care what people thought. They said wrestling wasn't for girls. But I didn't listen. I knew this was what I wanted. And nothing was going to stop me. The scene shifts to high school, where Pamela's love for wrestling deepened. She joined sports teams to build her strength and endurance, balancing athletics with part-time jobs to save money for wrestling school. She worked tirelessly, juggling school, sports, and jobs, all while holding on to the dream that one day she'd make it to the WWE. An emotional clip shows Pamela's mother recalling a pivotal moment. She'd come home after long days, exhausted but smiling. She'd say, "One day, you'll see me on TV," and I believed her because she believed in herself. The screen transitions to Pamela attending her first live wrestling event, her eyes wide with excitement as she watches her idols perform. The crowd's energy is electric, and Pamela is visibly inspired. That night changed everything. Watching her heroes up close, Pamela knew this wasn't just a dream. It was her destiny. The narrative shifts to Pamela's decision to enroll in a local wrestling school, marking the beginning of her formal training. It wasn't glamorous. The gym was small, the mats were worn, and the training was grueling. But Pamela thrived, fueled by a determination that set her apart from the very beginning. Clips of her early training sessions play. Pamela taking bumps, practicing holds, and running drills with seasoned wrestlers who were initially skeptical of her potential. She didn't have the size or the strength of some of her peers, but what she lacked in physicality, she made up for in heart. Every fall, every failure, every setback was met with unwavering resolve. Pamela's voice plays over footage of her training. I knew I wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but I also knew I had something no one could take away, my passion. The section ends with Pamela walking out of her first independent wrestling show, her gear slung over her shoulder and a determined look on her face. Her early life wasn't just about chasing a dream. It was about building the foundation for the wrestler and the person she would one day become. Pamela Rose Martinez was on her way to becoming Bayley. But the journey was only beginning. The scene opens with a modest independent wrestling venue, a dimly lit gym with folding chairs set up around a makeshift ring. A young Pamela Martinez stands nervously backstage, adjusting her gear and peeking out at the small crowd. Her name is called, and she steps into the spotlight for the very first time. Every wrestler has their first match, that pivotal moment when the dream collides with reality. For Pamela Martinez, it wasn't about the size of the crowd or the grandeur of the stage. It was about proving to herself that she belonged. Clips from her early matches play. Pamela running the ropes, taking her first bumps, and nervously cutting promos in front of small crowds. Her performances are raw, but her passion is unmistakable. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy. Independent wrestling was a world of hard lessons and even harder landings. But Pamela knew that every stumble was a step forward. An interview with one of her early trainers cuts in. She had something you can't teach: heart. I've seen people quit after one bad match. But Pamela kept coming back, ready to learn, ready to improve. The screen transitions to Pamela working part-time jobs to fund her wrestling aspirations. She's seen flipping burgers, cleaning gyms, and even sewing her own gear late at night. Wrestling isn't just a sport, it's an investment. And for Pamela, every dollar she earned went toward training, travel, and gear. She sacrificed time, comfort, and even relationships to chase her dream. Pamela's voice narrates over footage of her driving long hours to small shows. There were times I didn't know if I could keep going. The pay was terrible, the crowds were small, and the road was lonely. But every time I stepped into the ring, it reminded me why I started. The screen shifts to her first major breakthrough, being scouted by a respected trainer who saw potential in her raw talent and suggested she expand her horizons. She was told that if she wanted to make it big, she'd need to refine her skills and broaden her experience. That meant leaving her comfort zone and entering a world of even tougher competition. Clips show Pamela training at a more rigorous wrestling school, sparring with seasoned professionals who didn't hold back. The intensity is palpable as she pushes herself to her limits. Pamela's days became a blur of training, working, and performing. Her weekends were spent traveling from town to town, wrestling in front of audiences that sometimes barely filled a room. An interview with a fellow independent wrestler sheds light on Pamela's reputation during this time. She wasn't flashy, and she wasn't the loudest in the locker room, but once she stepped into the ring, you couldn't take your eyes off her. She had this energy, this connection with the crowd that you can't fake. The screen transitions to Pamela's first taste of real recognition, winning her first independent wrestling championship. The crowd is modest, but her victory is met with genuine cheers. That one wasn't about the belt, it was about validation. For the first time, Pamela felt like she was on the right track, that all the sacrifices were starting to pay off. Clips of Pamela's growing popularity in the independent circuit play, her name appearing on posters, fans lining up to meet her, and more established wrestlers taking notice of her potential. But the world of wrestling is unpredictable, and every step forward came with new challenges. Injuries, long stretches without bookings, and the constant pressure to stand out in an oversaturated industry tested her resolve. Pamela's voice plays over a scene of her icing her knee after a grueling match. There were nights when I thought, maybe this isn't for me, but then I'd remember that little girl sitting in the crowd, dreaming of this life. I couldn't give up, not on her, and not on myself. The section ends with Pamela receiving an email from WWE's talent scouts, inviting her to a tryout at their performance center. She stares at the screen in disbelief, her hands shaking with excitement. That email was a turning point, the moment when the impossible suddenly felt within reach. Pamela Martinez was about to take her first step into the big leagues, leaving behind the world of independent wrestling and stepping into a new chapter as Bayley. The scene opens with a sweeping shot of the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. Pamela Martinez, now known as Bayley, walks through the doors for the first time, her face a mixture of excitement and nerves. The camera lingers on the sign above the entrance, where dreams begin. For every aspiring wrestler, the WWE Performance Center is the ultimate proving ground. It's where talent is molded, dreams are tested, and the future of sports entertainment takes shape. For Bayley, this was her chance to turn her passion into a career. Clips of Bayley training with other recruits play, running drills, practicing promos, and perfecting her moves. Coaches watched closely, shouting feedback and pushing her to improve. She wasn't the fastest, the strongest, or the most experienced, but Bayley had something that set her apart. An unrelenting drive and an infectious energy that made her impossible to ignore. An interview with one of her early trainers at the Performance Center is shown. She wasn't just talented, she was likable. Fans could see themselves in her. That's rare in this business. And we knew she had something special. The screen transitions to Bayley's debut in NXT, WWE's developmental brand. Her entrance is accompanied by upbeat music, her bright smile lighting up the arena as she high-fives fans on her way to the ring. Bayley's NXT debut was the beginning of a journey that would redefine women's wrestling. With her hugger persona, she brought a sense of joy, authenticity, and heart to the ring that immediately resonated with fans. Highlights of her early NXT matches play: Bayley's innovative moves, her ability to connect with the crowd, and her growing popularity among fans of all ages. She wasn't just another wrestler. She was a role model. Kids adored her. Adults respected her. And the entire NXT universe rallied behind her underdog story. The screen transitions to Bayley's iconic rivalry with Sasha Banks, culminating in their legendary match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. The crowd is electric as the two women face off in the ring. That match wasn't just a turning point for Bayley. It was a turning point for women's wrestling. The intensity, the storytelling, the athleticism. It was a masterpiece that silenced every critic who doubted the place of women in the main event. Clips of the match's most dramatic moments play: Bayley's daring top rope moves, Sasha's brutal submission holds, and the emotional ending as Bayley pins Sasha to win the NXT Women's Championship. With that victory, Bayley cemented her status as a star. But more importantly, she proved that women could deliver matches just as compelling, if not more so, than their male counterparts. The screen cuts to Bayley addressing the crowd after the match, tears streaming down her face as fans chant, "You deserve it." That night wasn't just about winning a title. It was about breaking barriers. Bayley didn't just represent herself. She represented every woman who had ever dreamed of standing in that ring. The narrative shifts to Bayley's move to WWE's main roster, where she faced new challenges and opportunities. Her debut on Monday Night Raw is met with thunderous applause as fans chant her name. Transitioning to the main roster wasn't easy. The stakes were higher, the competition tougher, and the spotlight brighter. But Bayley rose to the occasion, proving she could hold her own among WWE's top stars. Clips of Bayley's memorable moments on the main roster play: winning the Raw Women's Championship, forming alliances with fellow wrestlers, and captivating audiences with her relatable underdog persona. She wasn't just a performer, she was a phenomenon. Bayley's connection with fans transcended the ring, making her one of the most beloved figures in WWE. The screen transitions to interviews with fellow wrestlers and industry insiders. Bayley had this unique ability to make you care, whether she was winning, losing, or just cutting a promo. You couldn't help but root for her. Clips of Bayley visiting children's hospitals, signing autographs at fan events, and delivering heartfelt speeches at charity events highlight her impact outside the ring. She wasn't just a champion in the ring, she was a champion in life. For Bayley, wrestling was about more than titles. It was about making a difference. The section ends with a montage of Bayley's greatest achievements, holding championship belts high above her head, standing victorious in the center of the ring, and embracing fans as confetti rains down. Bayley's rise to fame wasn't just a story of success. It was a story of heart, resilience, and the power of believing in yourself. But as the spotlight grew brighter, so did the challenges that lay ahead. The scene opens backstage after one of Bayley's matches. The crowd's cheers can still be heard faintly, but in the dressing room, Bayley sits alone, her hands wrapped in tape, her head bowed. Sweat drips from her brow as she stares at her reflection in the mirror. For all the glory and adoration, life as a professional wrestler is anything but easy. The travel, the physical toll, and the pressure to constantly perform at the highest level can weigh heavily on even the strongest of souls. For Bayley, the cracks began to show as her career soared to new heights. Clips of Bayley traveling from city to city play, her sleeping in cramped airplanes, dragging her suitcase through crowded airports, and eating a late-night meal alone in a hotel room. Wrestling is a relentless grind. The schedule leaves little time for rest, family, or self-care. For Bayley, the love of the sport kept her going. But the exhaustion was impossible to ignore. The camera shifts to an interview with Bayley, her voice soft but firm. There were times when I'd wake up and not even know what city I was in. I'd smile for the fans, give my all in the ring. But inside, I was drained, completely drained. The screen transitions to news headlines highlighting Bayley's struggles during this time. Bayley's character stagnates. Is Bayley losing her momentum? And fans demand a change. As beloved as Bayley was, the wrestling world is unforgiving. Critics began questioning her character's direction, calling her persona stale and one-dimensional. For someone who had built her career on fan connection, the backlash was devastating. Clips show Bayley in the ring, her once enthusiastic demeanor replaced by a forced smile as boos mixed with cheers in the crowd. She felt the pressure to reinvent herself. But doing so meant taking risks that could alienate the fans who had been with her since day one. An emotional backstage moment shows Bayley talking with a close friend and fellow wrestler. I just don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore. The fans want something different, but I don't want to lose who I am. The screen shifts to Bayley dealing with injuries, a hyperextended knee, a torn ligament in her shoulder, and countless bumps and bruises from years of high-impact matches. She pushed through the pain, refusing to let her injuries slow her down. But her body was beginning to feel the effects of the relentless schedule and physical demands of the ring. An interview with a WWE medical staff member highlights Bayley's resilience. She wouldn't take time off unless she absolutely had to, even when we advised rest. She'd say, "I'll be fine. Just tape it up." That kind of determination is rare. But it comes at a cost. Clips of Bayley icing her knee and wincing during training sessions show the toll on her physically. Every match, every flight, every sleepless night, it all added up. Bayley began to feel the weight of being a top performer in an industry that never slows down. The scene transitions to her emotional decision to change her persona. A dramatic shift from the bright and bubbly hugger to the darker, edgier heel that shocked the wrestling world. The transformation wasn't just a career move, it was a personal evolution. Bayley had to let go of the persona that had defined her for years and embrace a new identity, one that felt both terrifying and liberating. Clips of Bayley cutting her hair, debuting a new look, and smashing her inflatable tube men with a menacing grin play over dramatic music. When she turned heel, fans were stunned. Some embraced the change, while others rejected it outright. For Bayley, it was a gamble, one that could redefine her career or end it. An interview with a fellow wrestler sheds light on her mindset during this time. She was scared, no doubt, but she knew it was what she needed to do. She wasn't just changing her character. She was finding herself. The section ends with Bayley standing in the ring after her heel turn. The crowd divided between boos and cheers. Her expression is stoic, but her eyes betray a hint of vulnerability. That moment marked a turning point, not just in Bayley's career, but in her life. She wasn't just fighting her opponents anymore. She was fighting to rediscover who she was. Both in and out of the ring, The scene opens with Bayley walking down the ramp, her new edgy persona fully realized. The arena is electric, with a mix of boos and cheers reverberating through the crowd. She smirks, holding her championship belt high above her head, embodying her transformation into one of WWE's most captivating heels. Bayley's reinvention wasn't just a bold career move. It was a defining moment that solidified her as one of the most versatile and impactful performers in WWE history. This was a new Bayley, ruthless, unapologetic, and ready to dominate. Clips of her matches during this era play intense rivalries with Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bianca Belair, showcasing her aggressive style and strategic brilliance in the ring. She was no longer the underdog. Bayley had evolved into a tactician, a force to be reckoned with, and one of the most consistent champions of her generation. The screen transitions to Bayley cutting a fiery promo, her confidence radiating as she mocks her opponents and commands the audience's attention. With her sharp wit and undeniable charisma, Bayley became a master on the microphone. Her promos were as devastating as her in-ring abilities, making her one of the most well-rounded performers in the industry. Highlights of her historic achievements follow, becoming the first woman to win the Triple Crown and Grand Slam in WWE, her record-breaking SmackDown Women's Championship reign, and her role in elevating the women's tag team division. Bayley wasn't just winning matches, she was making history. Every title she won, every record she broke, added to her growing legacy as one of the greatest of all time. The narrative shifts to her partnership and eventual rivalry with Sasha Banks, culminating in a brutal Hell in a Cell match that left fans in awe. The bond between Bayley and Sasha Banks was one of the most compelling storylines in WWE. Their chemistry, both as allies and adversaries, brought out the best in both performers and created some of the most memorable matches in women's wrestling history. Clips of the Hell in a Cell match show the physicality, emotion, and storytelling that defined their rivalry. Bayley's face twists in pain as she fights back, refusing to give up despite the brutal punishment. That match wasn't just a spectacle. It was a testament to Bayley's ability to tell a story in the ring. She didn't just wrestle, she made you feel every moment, every struggle, every triumph. The screen transitions to interviews with fellow wrestlers and industry insiders praising Bayley's impact. She raised the bar for everyone. Bayley wasn't just great, she made everyone around her better. That's the mark of a true legend. Clips of Bayley mentoring younger talent backstage, offering advice and encouragement, highlight her role as a leader in the locker room. She wasn't just focused on her success. Bayley made it her mission to pave the way for the next generation of female wrestlers. Her influence extended far beyond the ring. The narrative shifts to Bayley's impact outside of wrestling, her involvement in charity work, her connection with fans, and her role as a role model for young girls aspiring to enter the industry. Bayley's legacy wasn't just built on championships and accolades. It was built on her ability to inspire. For fans around the world, she wasn't just a wrestler. She was proof that dreams can come true with hard work and perseverance. The screen fades to a montage of fan testimonials, showing children dressed as Bayley, women inspired by her story, and fans holding signs that read, "Thank you, Bayley." She gave her heart to the business, and the fans gave it back tenfold. For Bayley, wrestling wasn't just a job. It was her life's purpose. The section ends with a shot of Bayley standing in the ring, confetti falling around her as she holds her championship belt high. Her face is a mixture of pride, gratitude, and determination. Bayley's peak wasn't just about the titles she won or the record she set. It was about the legacy she created, a legacy that will inspire generations of wrestlers and fans to come. The scene opens in a quiet arena, the ring empty and the lights dimmed. Bayley sits on the edge of the apron, her championship belt resting beside her. Her face is contemplative as she looks out at the vacant seats. A stark contrast to the roaring crowd she's used to. Every champion faces the inevitability of time, the challenge of staying at the top, the pressure to maintain relevance, and the toll that a lifetime in the ring takes on the body and mind. For Bayley, the next chapter of her career will be defined by these very struggles. Clips of Bayley's later matches play, moments where her movements are a fraction slower, her landings a little harder. Injuries that had once been manageable began to take a deeper toll. The years of high-impact matches and a relentless schedule began to catch up with Bayley. Her body, once a source of strength, became a battleground of injuries and recovery. The screen transitions to medical footage. Bayley undergoing physical therapy for a torn ACL. Her face tense with pain as she works through rehab exercises. In 2021, Bayley suffered a devastating injury during training, tearing her ACL, a setback that would keep her out of action for over a year. For a performer who thrived on the connection with fans, the forced hiatus was both physically and emotionally challenging. An interview with Bayley during her recovery shows her fighting back tears. "It was hard. Wrestling is everything to me. And suddenly, I couldn't do it anymore. I felt like I lost a piece of myself." The screen shifts to WWE programming during Bayley's absence, with commentators and fans speculating about her return. Even as she healed, Bayley remained a part of the conversation. Fans eagerly awaited her comeback. But the journey back to the ring was far from easy. Clips of Bayley's grueling rehab sessions play, lifting weights, running drills, and pushing herself beyond her limits to regain her strength. She approached recovery with the same determination that had defined her career, refusing to let the injury end her story. The narrative transitions to her eventual return. The crowd erupts as Bayley's music hits, and she steps onto the stage with a renewed energy. Her new faction Damage Control by her side. When Bayley returned, she didn't just pick up where she left off. She reinvented herself once again, forming alliances and embracing a more ruthless persona that reminded everyone why she was a force to be reckoned with. Clips of her matches post-return show flashes of her brilliance, but the narrative shifts to the difficulties of reclaiming her position in an ever-evolving industry. The wrestling world had changed in her absence, with new stars rising and the competition fiercer than ever. For Bayley, staying relevant required more than just skill. It required adaptability and resilience. An interview with a WWE producer highlights this transition. She's always been able to evolve, but coming back from a major injury is tough. Bayley didn't just do it. She made it look like she never missed a step. The screen transitions to Bayley reflecting on her career in an emotional interview. "Wrestling has given me everything, friends, family, memories I'll never forget. But it's also taken so much. The injuries, the sacrifices, the constant pressure. It's all part of the deal. And I wouldn't trade it for anything." Clips show Bayley mentoring younger wrestlers, passing on her knowledge and encouraging them to embrace their potential. In her later years, Bayley became a guiding light for the next generation of wrestlers, sharing her wisdom and ensuring that her legacy extended far beyond her own career. The section ends with Bayley standing in the center of the ring after a hard-fought match. The crowd's cheers are deafening as she raises her hand in victory, a small smile playing on her lips. Even in the face of adversity, Bayley never lost sight of who she was or why she started. Her journey was far from over, but every challenge she faced only strengthened her resolve to keep fighting. The scene opens with a packed arena, the crowd chanting "Thank you, Bayley." The camera pans to Bayley standing in the ring, visibly emotional, holding a microphone in her hand. Her voice trembles slightly as she begins to speak. For over a decade, Bayley gave everything she had to the wrestling world. From her first match in a small independent venue to headlining major pay-per-view events, She built a career that transcended the sport, but like all stories, hers was coming to an end. Clips of Bayley's final matches play, showcasing her still bringing her signature intensity to every performance. Her face, determined as ever, carries hints of reflection and gratitude. She approached her final matches with the same passion and determination that had defined her career. Every moment in the ring was a tribute to the fans who had supported her and the journey that had shaped her. The narrative shifts to backstage interviews with her peers, who reflect on Bayley's impact on the industry. Bayley was a game changer. She didn't just compete, she elevated everyone around her. Losing her from the ring feels like the end of an era. Clips of Bayley saying goodbye to fans during her farewell tour highlight the emotional connection she shared with her audience. Young fans hold signs that read, "We'll miss you, Bayley," while others shout words of encouragement. For Bayley, the farewell wasn't about sadness, it was about celebration. She made it her mission to leave the industry better than she found it, and her farewell was a testament to that legacy. The screen transitions to Bayley's final match, a high-stakes bout against a rising star she had mentored. The crowd is electric as the two wrestlers lock eyes, symbolizing the passing of the torch. Her final opponent wasn't just a competitor. It was someone Bayley had helped guide and inspire. For her, this match wasn't about winning or losing. It was about giving back to the industry that had given her everything. The match unfolds with dramatic intensity, both women giving it their all. The final moments show Bayley being pinned, but instead of disappointment, her face reflects pride and fulfillment as the crowd erupts in applause. When the referee counted to 3, it wasn't the end. It was the culmination of a career that had touched countless lives. Bayley stood tall in the center of the ring, soaking in the chants of "Thank you, Bayley." The screen cuts to her post-match speech, where she addresses the fans, her voice breaking with emotion. "I started this journey as a little girl with a dream, and because of all of you, I got to live it. Thank you for believing in me, for supporting me, and for letting me be part of your lives." As she leaves the ring for the final time, the camera lingers on her walking up the ramp, pausing to look back at the cheering crowd one last time. Her smile is a mixture of gratitude and peace. Bayley's farewell wasn't just the end of a career, it was a celebration of a legacy. Her journey in the ring had ended, but her impact on the world of wrestling would endure forever. The section ends with Bayley at a charity event, surrounded by fans and young wrestlers she's mentoring. Her laughter and warmth fill the screen, a reminder that while her time in the ring was over, her role as a mentor and inspiration was just beginning. Even after stepping away from the spotlight, Bayley continued to give back, ensuring that her story would inspire future generations. For Bayley, the end of her wrestling career was just the beginning of a new chapter. The scene opens with a montage of Bayley's most iconic moments: her first NXT championship win, her dramatic heel turn, her record-breaking SmackDown Women's Championship reign, and her final match. Each clip transitions into the next, showcasing her evolution as a performer and a person. Bayley's journey wasn't just about titles, matches, or accolades. It was about breaking barriers, redefining expectations, and inspiring millions around the world. Her legacy is one of resilience, reinvention, and the undeniable power of believing in yourself. The screen transitions to interviews with her peers, fans, and industry experts reflecting on her career. Bayley wasn't just one of the best female wrestlers. She was one of the best wrestlers. Period. She brought emotion, storytelling, and heart to every match. She raised the bar for everyone. She showed us that you don't have to fit a mold to succeed. Bayley was proof that authenticity and hard work can take you to the top. Clips of young fans meeting Bayley, holding homemade signs and wearing her signature headbands, emphasize her connection with her audience. Bayley wasn't just a superstar in the ring, she was a hero to countless fans, especially young girls who saw themselves in her. She made them believe that they, too, could achieve their dreams. The narrative shifts to Bayley's influence outside of wrestling, highlighting her charity work, mentorship of young talent, and her efforts to promote gender equality in sports. Her impact extended far beyond the squared circle. Bayley used her platform to give back, ensuring that her success paved the way for others to follow in her footsteps. An emotional clip shows Bayley speaking at a wrestling school, addressing a group of aspiring wrestlers. Remember, this isn't just about winning, it's about passion, dedication, and making the people who believe in you proud. If you can do that, you've already won. The screen transitions to fan testimonials, showcasing the lasting impact Bayley had on their lives. She wasn't just my favorite wrestler. She was my role model. She showed me that it's okay to be yourself and to keep fighting, no matter what. The narrative reflects on Bayley's contributions to the evolution of women's wrestling, highlighting her role in the women's revolution and her efforts to elevate the division. Bayley wasn't just part of the women's revolution. She was a driving force behind it. Her matches, rivalries, and dedication helped solidify women's wrestling as a main event attraction. The screen fades to Bayley sitting in her home, surrounded by memorabilia from her career. She holds a championship belt in her lap, her face calm and reflective. When I started, I just wanted to wrestle. I never imagined it would turn into this, a life filled with incredible moments, amazing people, and memories I'll cherish forever. The section ends with a final montage, Bayley standing victorious in the ring, hugging young fans, and mentoring the next generation of wrestlers. The final shot is of her walking away from the ring, her silhouette framed by the lights of the arena. Bayley's story is more than just a tale of a wrestler. It's the story of a dreamer who never gave up, a fighter who overcame every obstacle, and a pioneer who changed the face of an industry. Her legacy will live on, not just in the record books, but in the hearts of everyone she inspired. The screen fades to black as Bayley's voice echoes one last time. Thank you for everything. I'll always be Bayley, and this will always be home.